Harvard Ex Situ During Covid-19 by Evelyn A. Opilas of Rooty Hill, 2766. Narrated by Janine Penfold. The year is 2020. Shock, horror, disbelief. A worldwide lockdown is upon us. The SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus that results in the COVID-19 illness has imposed its unseen, unwanted, infectious presence. I am on enforced home detention, allowed to go out only for essential errands, with face masks a mandatory accessory. My son checks on my whereabouts like a parole officer would. No masses to attend in person, no religious rituals, spiritual nourishment by remote control. I had a life, BCE, before COVID-19 encroached. Community activities, international travel, train rides to Sydney for Mass at either St Mary's Cathedral, St Patrick's Catholic Church, The Rocks, or St Peter Julian's Catholic Church, Haymarket. Long lunches with kindred spirits, and most importantly, precious time with my son, Hobbs, granddaughter, Helena, and siblings, Yvonne, Raoul, and Lorna and her family, husband Robert, daughters May and Michelle. Pause clicked indefinitely as Australia locked down 24 March 2020. Life AD, after detention, seemed far away. Let nothing disturb you, flashed the mantra of St Teresa of Avila, the feisty 16th century saint and doctor of the Catholic Church, who was also patron saint of the school I went to in the Philippines, as the reality of indefinite lockdown sunk in. There seemed to be two extremes that coexist in me as a result of my education at St Teresa's College, Quezon City. On the one hand, I learned to be idealistic, to subscribe to the Aquinian view of the true, the good, and the beautiful. On the other hand, having been freed to tangle with the world's seemingly flawed sense of what is true, good, and beautiful, I subconsciously developed a skeptical persona. My cloak. Imagine a life nurtured, developed, honed at St Teresa's, from kindergarten to college. 16 years of moulding, brainwashing, as some of my former colleagues playfully suggested. St Teresa's College on D, Don Jose Severo, Toison Avenue, was home, an all-girls convent school with St Teresa of Avila as its role model. Let nothing disturb you, let nothing frighten you. All things are passing away. God never changes. The saint's refrain became de rigueur in my indoctrination. It would also help me deal with my skeptical reception of what would eventually be 2 years of isolation. Strict compliance and self-preservation during the pandemic. One of my Viber chat groups provided relief when a former classmate, Sydney-sider Alice DeMolanta Jones, thoughtfully posted a list of free online activities to keep us busy while the lockdown malingered. Most of us were nearing, or in, our 70s. For our mental health and well-being, came the reminder. Browsing the list led me to Justice, a free online course offered by Harvard University under a leading political philosopher, Professor Michael J. Sandel, which attracted over 400,000 participants worldwide. It seemed unreal that a brief stroll through the Harvard campus in 2016 would lead to study ex situ in 2020. Professor Sandel reminded me of Sister M. Christiane, ICM, a Belgian nun who lectured in philosophy and whose classes I attended at St Teresa's for my Bachelor of Arts degree in the late 60s. Sister M. Christiane had a passion for the philosophers, Aristotle, Greek, and Immanuel Kant, German. She pushed my ability to reason to the point of restlessness. The restlessness would recur as I balanced motive, duty, purpose in some of my life-altering choices. I tried hard to understand her explanations of Aristotle's teleology and Kant's categorical imperative. Simply put, teleology focuses on how purpose can be found in nature, while categorical imperative requires one to act according to a law one gives to self, that it becomes universal law. Those 2 semesters in Sister M. Christiane's classes made me wonder what drove St. Teresa's College to encourage philosophical debate among her teenaged collegiates, most of whom giggled a lot over nothing and everything. Professor Sandel's passion for political philosophy, as a communitarian philosopher himself, would resurrect Sister M. Christiane's file from my cerebral archives. Philosophy estranges us from the familiar, not by supplying new information, but by inviting and provoking a new way of seeing, but, and here's the risk, once the familiar turns strange, it's never quite the same again, the professor forewarned. As I progressed through the self-paced course, I was introduced to previously unmet philosophers, including Jeremy Bentham, Robert Nozick, and John Rawls, and their contributions to political thought. I also had to post my comments on the discussion board and pit my brain with those of the other students from various countries, most of whom would probably be the same age as the younger members of my family. The familiar names of Kant and Aristotle came up too, and Sister M. Christiane would have agreed with Professor Sandel that self-knowledge is like lost innocence. However unsettling you may find it, it can never be unthought or unknown. The Justice course at Harvard reunited me with my philosophy classes of long ago at St. Teresa's College and made me realise I could still navigate education 50 years later, albeit in a different mode. Having been used to learning where a teacher towered over students seated on their respective desks, online learning gave me the flexibility of studying on my own terms, my time, my pace, my concentration span. I also passed the final exams comparatively well, with 72 points, the required pass mark being 60 points. Simply to acquiesce in skepticism can never suffice to overcome the restlessness of reason. Professor Sandel's words nudged my consciousness. The restlessness of reason afflicted me, an unwitting legacy of Sister M. Christiane's passion for philosophy, as I faced the ramifications of Covid-19 in 2020. The end. This story is also narrated in Filipino in this anthology.